And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
Hey, welcome to Shaping Success. I'm your host, Wes Tankersley. This is episode 37 with a returning guest, PFENNING. Jay has his hand in a bunch of different things. He's the host of the HardParking podcast, one of the creators of the ONEAUTO movement, just to name a few. Jay, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Wes. Glad to be back. Excited. Let's do this.
Yeah, you know, this is kind of cool because this is a little trial run here. We had a little bit of sickness in the TV PBN network there. We're going to try and run this on Ecamm myself, just kind of looking at and seeing how this works out. And I may start doing my bonus coverage episodes that I do on the podcast this way because it gives me another outlet to stream everything live. So it's getting a little cold over here in Idaho. How's that weather over in Arizona?
You know, it was like 40, 45 this morning when we got up, went out and had breakfast. Actually sat outside with a light jacket on, but by the time we got done eating, it's like, take the jacket off, sleeve shirts, and go about your day. Well,
and we know, I'm going to get to actually meet you in a couple weeks here, so we'll see how that goes because it definitely is a little cold down here. And looking forward to coming to Arizona and playing a little golf and maybe getting a ride in that sweet car of yours.
Drinking a little scotch, maybe some bourbon.
You know what I'm talking about. Hey, so we talk daily, and, I just thought it would be cool to talk a little bit more about some of the things you're doing. Get on here and, just chat a little bit. Can you kind of tell us what direction? So I know that in our last interview, we talked a little bit about ONEAUTO and your car and all that stuff. How's ONEAUTO going and where is that headed?
I don't even remember what we talked about. I do and I don't. I do know that the car was a little bit and some of the other stuff was a little bit. So ONEAUTO is just continuing to grow. And for people who didn't catch it last time, it's basically a car community. A lot of people think we're a car club. We're not a club. We're all driven by our passions. We're all fueled by the car culture. And you can also say we're all fueled by our passions and we're driven by our culture. And so what that really means is, in the car community, and it's not really about the cars, it's about life because it's about the respect for people and their tastes, and I think a lot of people get behind that. And recently we had a few owners. And over the years, each owner, they get kind of busy and their life kind of takes control. And me, I'm just like, we got to do it. We got to do it. We got to do it. And I understand not everybody has the same energy as I do. So one of my dear friends, basically like a brother to me, just said, "Hey, Jay, I see what you're doing. I'm sorry. I can't give up, but I'm always going to be there for you." I said, "Cool. I'll just take it and run with it." And so I appreciate him just the opportunity to do that. This gives me an opportunity to kind of redirect focus on ONEAUTO Global, because a few years ago I had a campaign called ONEAUTO Global because I wanted to make sure we could be in as many countries as possible. I think it's really cool to have somebody in some other country send a picture up to Instagram or Facebook and be like, boom, and read the light. I can't read nothing that's going on in the background, but people can recognize that. And I want it to be kind of like the international peace sign. Here in Arizona, I have a ONEAUTO council, and it's purely volunteer based, and because I can't do it. Like, none of us can get there on our own. We need people. We need support. Yes, man. And we need, hell no, you're crazy people around us, right? So we don't do something stupid or make a bad decision because we don't know it all. And so the council helps me make those decisions. Like, hey guys, what do you think about this shirt? And they could say it's ugly. I'm like, okay, fine. Or should we take part in this event? What do you guys think? And there's always going to be people who are, yeah, it's cool. I'm down if you're down. And there'll be people who say it's not my favorite. So there's a place for everybody, but they help me plan these events. No one really makes, we don't make any money off of this. It's just about spreading the word. It's a sense of community. And so we have a ONEAUTO cruise coming up, and a lot of people look forward to that. And there's people who come to the ONEAUTO cruise, which is basically just a car cruise. We pick a route. We get everybody together. We say, here's our road rules. We try to attach it to some sort of charity because why not, right? Why not? This time it's going to be a toy drive, no pun intended. Everyone's going to be expected to bring a gift, and we're going to do a small little loop. And then when we're done, we're going to end up at Wright Toyota in Scottsdale, Arizona. And they already have a toy drive going on. So we're just going to get absorbed into the toy drive and donate our gifts, our toys, and just kind of mingle with everybody else. Because it doesn't matter whose event it is. You don't have to recreate the wheel. You just find somebody already doing something, say, hey, can we be a part of this? And the day, the people who are on the other end of the charity are the winners. So we have that going on. And then in November, actually next Saturday, which is the 21st, we have an event called One Less. And the stats are, and I don't have it memorized because it's changed this year from last year, But basically, to summarize, we'll say 1 in 7 senior citizens goes hungry. 1 in 4 children goes hungry in Arizona, and 1 in X families goes without food. In 2020, numbers got to be a little higher, I would think. More desperate people, more people with no food, more people, no money, no jobs, no money, no jobs. And unfortunately, we can't really get a huge car event going this time. So then we're focusing more on donations. We tell people you can do cash donation. Locally, you can pack up a bunch of food, bring it and drop it off. And then the best part of the event for us is the donation bag assembly. So basically you get like this big assembly line of people together. You see how many bags you can assemble, and you have to grab each. You have to grab the beans. You have to grab the Hormel chili. You have to grab 1 of everything or 2 of everything, depending on what they tell us to do. And it gets to the end, you have to tie it up really quick and put it somewhere, and it gets counted. And so we do a team competition between the other car clubs and just groups to see who can bag the most with it. And then at the end of the day, like last year, between donations, cash, physical, and bag assemblies, we provided 18,000 meals. So it's a really big deal for the state. And it's a good look for us because we just want to be involved in the communities. That's basically what ONEAUTO has going on right now. In the future, it's just continuing to grow, come out with more swag, more shirts, more everything. And all that money, like I have a real job. So that money just sits in the ONEAUTO treasury, and then we use it to donate or to get things for the ONEAUTO group. When we go on cruises, we buy waters or we buy donation items on behalf of ONEAUTO as a community.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool situation. I really like the fact that you could be driving around in a Geo Metro and be part of the ONEAUTO movement, because that's what it is. It's about everyone's different taste and different types of vehicles. So it's a great movement to join. And I know I asked you, I got a silver sticker, but I need to get a black one for the new white Pilot, because it's the black edition. I need to get that black on the back end of that thing.
I got one for you, man. And by the way, I would love to see a Geo Metro with a ONEAUTO decal on it, because I don't care what you drive. Like I mean, I have an NSX, I have a turbo 97 NSX, but I also have a kind of a janky Infinity FX, sits outside. And sometimes I like being seen in that car more, because people don't, it's not like, okay, well, I see you in your NSX and you have this and you have that. Like, you should never assume what people have or they don't have. Right. And sometimes I think being in my Infinity, it lets me kind of blend in a little bit more, because it has I'll tell you a funny story. A friend of mine last weekend, she's part of the ONEAUTO community. And by the way, the community is just people from who can't even drive yet to people of a retired age. ONEAUTO on their car, have ONEAUTO shirts on their back. It's just like the most amazing thing. But so we're driving from one event to the other, because we did a big mental health awareness event. We get to the second stop, and she says, "Hey, Jay, where do I really want one of those decals you have on your car," because she has a bar like you have, but we also have the circle logo. And she goes, where do you get one of those? I kind of like the weathered look. And I said, "Catherine, that's been on my car for 6 years in Arizona. That's the reason why." 4 years. That's why it looks like that. We both had a good laugh. I go, so you're just gonna have to leave it on your car for like 4 years, just let it sit outside and bake in the sun. So
yeah, you got to earn that.
But other than
look.
earn that weathered look. Other than that, and just the name OneAutoMovement.com on the back of the Infinity, it's bone stock. Crappy everything else on it. It's just a dirty, messy car, but I love it, and it just kind of helps me. Like, guys, I'm with you. You don't have to have a fancy car, and the Infinity is nicer than a lot of other cars, but on the grand, scheme of things, it's just a normal car for normal people.
Yeah, well, you heard it here, guys. He wants to see a ONEAUTO sticker on a Geo Metro. So if you're driving a Geo Metro, hit up OneAuto.com and get yourself a ONEAUTO sticker and throw it on your Metro, so we can post that bad boy on social media.
Don't go to OneAuto.com.
Oh, sorry, I screwed that up. I knew it. ONEAUTO Movement.
Go to OneAutoMovement.com. Or actually, Wes, he'll have my contact details. Hit me up. I will freaking send you one. But if you're in another country, you're going to have to pay for international shipping.
That's awesome. Hey, so let's move on to HardParking, because I know that with ONEAUTO, one of the nice things about that is you're able to move that more into HardParking and talk about that a little bit more. HardParking is your podcast, which is, you describe it as the non-automotive automotive podcast. And, there's some really good episodes. And the first one that I ever listened to of yours was your Father's Day episode, which kind of really just gives people a good idea of who you are. So if you're listening and you were looking for a good podcast to listen to, you should go check out Jay's podcast. It's not a car podcast. I mean, I've been on it twice, and we've talked about car stuff, but there's a lot more to it than that. What's kind of the direction that you're going with hard parking now? Because we talk daily, and you've talked a little bit about like kind of trying to change a few things up in it and everything, and kind of reformatting. And you've been doing it for about a year now, right?
Yeah. So the podcast is, I've been doing it for just over a year, and I still haven't got to 50 episodes because it's, I try to release one every 14 to 16 days. But these past few months, or I would say most of 2020, in the COVID era of 2020, I try to do it every 14 days. I haven't really talked about the exact format change publicly. I think you know about it a little bit, but I want to kind of broaden the grasp of the reach of ONEAUTO. I'm sorry, of ONEAUTO too, obviously. Yeah. We got ONEAUTO on the mind, but of the podcast, because as you were saying, it's not, I advertise it as the non-automotive automotive podcast and also normal cars from normal people. But I recently changed the category from automotive to society and culture. As we've talked about, and a lot of other people who listen to the podcast talk about, it's not really cars, right? I'd have to say at least 50% of my audience doesn't consider themselves a car person, doesn't care anything. They want to get their car washed once a month, but that doesn't necessarily make you a hardcore car person. But it doesn't mean you're not a car person because you care about the appearance of your car. So, but like you were saying with the Father's Day episode, it's just, I usually open every episode with some sort of, I wouldn't say a sermon because that's almost religious leaning, right? But some sort of a speech or thoughts, observations, introspections that I'm sharing with people, just different aspects of life. And I think that's what people like the most is the relatability to it, because I think we all go through similar things. We just don't realize it. We all think about some of the same things. And I don't know if I said this driving through a parking lot and you go to Home Depot or to Target or the grocery store, and you're driving looking for a place to park, and there's the people who come out of the store, but they don't pay attention to you. They should just kind of scurry. It's like people take their sweet ass time crossing the crosswalk when there's a lot of traffic. Like, you can just hurry up a little bit, like be considerate of other people. But the people who come out of those doors, they walk at that hard angle instead of just coming right across. And it's like, come on, like be aware. And that annoys everybody, right? In some aspects. So I talk about a lot of silly stuff like that, travel things. There's the Jay's rental car of the week. So on a non-COVID year, I'm traveling every week. And so I pick up a rental car, and I don't get anything like a Ferrari, but I get normal cars from normal people. And so I want to tell people about them. What did I like? What didn't I like? What you might like? If you're traveling with a family, what you may want to consider. If it's just you and one person and light luggage, you may or may not want to get this car. Maybe you want to buy the car. Maybe you're curious of what the car is like and you haven't got out and gone for a test drive. Yeah, I think that's just part of the relatability aspect of the HardParking podcast. And of course, there's definitely some car stuff in there too, because it is a car-centric podcast. But, like you were saying, overall, even with the Father's Day episode, there's nothing about cars in the first probably 30, 40 minutes of that podcast.
Yeah, and it's funny, like sometimes you need a little help from someone to teach you how to use the CarPlay in those vehicles. Sometimes, you never know.
Okay, yep. Like the last car, right? I had the 2020 Tahoe LT, and I was complaining to you guys when my wife went to buy herself some warm clothes because we were in Minnesota, and I was like, you know what? I've rented vehicles like this before. I've seen this interface. No CarPlay, you know me. No CarPlay, no J.
Yeah.
It's important when you're in a new place. Like usually when I'm on the job, I travel to the same site every week. So eventually I become familiar with it. And so you use those hands-free tools for navigation or just the communication or not in general. But when you're in a new place, you really rely on those tools.
Right.
And so you don't want to be looking down at your iPhone or your Android at what turn is coming up. Or if there's a police officer spotted, 0.6 miles down the road, you want to use the CarPlay. And I was complaining, and you go, hey, why don't you hit the projection button? I had that happen to me. And I go, oh, sure enough, there it was. And then I was happy. So sometimes you got to get some help from some other people on how to use CarPlay. Yes, for
sure. Well, and I, like I said, the only reason I knew is because I was driving in a Chevy, and I have it's different in the 18 and the 19. It's two different things. My 19 is you plug the thing right back in. The 18 that I used to have, it'll hook up, like you said, wireless, or you have to plug it in. You can do either or, but that's part of and that's the nice thing is like you're helping people understand the way that those things work. I mean, it's just like the Honda Pilot that I have. I would never recommend renting one if you've got a big family, because once you throw up that back seat, we all know that there's no more room in there, and there's barely any room in the back of a Pilot when you do that. So if you're trying to haul around 7 people like it says it can, good luck, especially if you're on vacation.
It's the same deal with that Tahoe.
Yeah,
same deal with that Tahoe. It's got the third row. There was 4 adults, which was basically myself, my wife, and my 2 grown children, and then our grandson. And my daughter had to sit in the back cramped. She had one of those third row seats up, one down, so we can have room for the stroller. So,
yep, it's just the way it works. Hey, so let's talk. I want to talk real quick about the podcast and your sponsorship deal that you just got, which is a really cool thing. And I think that it's nice that, I want you to talk a little bit, because a lot of our listeners are podcasters, about how it's helped and reaching out to people. Let's talk a little bit about that. It's a really great deal. I'm really happy for you that you got this sponsorship. So talk about a little bit how you got that, and about your sponsor.
Sure. So like we talked about earlier, I've been doing podcasting for about a year. And it got to the point where the audio and the video, because sometimes I do videos on YouTube, got to a certain level where I started getting some big attention. Like, people started noticing. And I'm happy to report that I just signed a 2-year, $350,000 sponsorship with Spotify. And I get full control of the show.
Okay, Joe Rogan.
Okay. All right. So real talk is, and this is kind of a thing to all podcasters. I don't know it all, but I come from a world where I'm used to dealing with sponsorships with the cars, and there's a certain way to approach. And without trying to tell people what to do, I would say get into it, perfect your craft as much as you can, perfect your product, which is your craft, which is your audio, and you never know who's listening. And so I had a guest on, Jane D'Amelio, one of the most downloaded episodes. I don't have a lot of downloads. I don't. Like, we've talked about that on the side, and compared to a lot of other podcasters, we're still way at the bottom. But if the message is good, the message is clear, and people enjoy it, you never know. So Jane, I've kind of kept her as an arm length, because she does a lot of stuff in the community. And eventually she said, hey, we want to be a part of your podcast. Like, how do we become a part of your podcast? And so she's part of the Wilson Automotive Group, and they have 6 dealerships between here, California, and Nevada. And so here in Scottsdale, Wright Honda, which is one of the big dealerships she works for, they are the title sponsor for the podcast for now. And from a sponsorship aspect, I approach these connections and say, hey, this is my podcast. Would you be interested? For this amount of money, I'll give you this amount of episodes, and I will do it. And it's not just like giving your sponsor a shout out. It's legit. Think about radio. Think about big podcasts. When they read, you hear Dollar Shave Club. They're not saying this is sponsored by Dollar Shave Club. They may say this is sponsored by Dollar Shave Club. Get your wages, 2 or 3 sentences, and then you just keep going with the flow of your podcast. And I think that they really like how I do those. And so that also helps get sponsorships. Sell yourself to them and let them know, okay, what can I do for you can do for me and my podcast? Because at the end of the day, a lot of people don't care what they can do for you. It's what you can do for them from a business aspect. You have to be able to separate the business. Another thing I think helped a lot was they had a charity event at Wright Honda. They said, anybody wants to have their car in our showroom for a week leading up to the event, let us know. So I reached out to them and said, hey, we'd love to have your NSX in our showroom. I said, okay, cool. A couple of days later, I called them up. I said, hey, I did before I got the sponsorship, and I do a segment called Jay's Rental Car of the Week. It'd be cool. It's okay if you don't. I could take an Uber, but it'd be really cool if you had a loaner vehicle that I could just kind of review. Because Honda doesn't do, fleet rentals, but there's people out there that might want to know what a Honda's like that doesn't have one. I know there's so many of them out there, but as we got closer to the date, I go, well, find like your coolest trim of your lowest vehicle. And so we worked out a skit so people could find that skit on my YouTube, HardParking Podcast, why I traded my NSX in for an HRV. And at the end of the day, it just turned into a vehicle review. I told them that if they can't sell my NSX, then I'll be happy to give them the HRV back. But I really wanted to get out of that NSX because it's so old. I mean, it's a 97, but we had a lot of fun with it. And what happened was the ownership group saw that and they want to make me part of more videos. So they're going to bring me in, have me take out more rentals and do more fun videos. And there's just a lot of opportunity potentially for me to make a little extra money on the side while I'm working on the podcast. So you never know where life can take you as long as you just keep doing and keep caring about what you're doing and caring about the people who care about you.
Yeah. And so where can they find that video? Because that was one of the coolest things that I see. Give me your YouTube.
So the podcast YouTube is, it's called it's youtube.com HardParking Podcast. If you Google HardParking Media, you'll probably find it as well. I mean, you'll know when you get there because you'll see me all over it.
Yeah, and I really love that video. It was pretty sweet because I love the fact that you're sitting there driving in the car or whatever, and you're tilting your little animations and things like that. And I know how long and how hard you worked on that deal. It was really great to see the end result with you talking about it throughout the week and how you're trying to get it prepared and everything. So check it out. It's a pretty cool little skit. Jay goes in there making everyone think that and he actually got a lot of flack from a lot of his friends. Like, did you get rid of your NSX for an HRV? I mean, it was crazy. Yeah. It's like, watch the video. We all know how that works.
Yeah, it's nothing worse. Commenting on something before you even looked at it. I mean, that's just a microcosm of where we are on social media today. And that video is it's one of those things. So but I look forward to it because there's some cool opportunities. And yeah, I mean, I worked really hard on that YouTube video, and it's not the best out there, but it's the best I could do given the time and given my old piece of crap laptop, which, by the time the end of this year comes, I'll already have a new faster laptop because now I can substantiate it because of, business opportunities.
Yep. Well, hey, we probably better get going here. I'm going to throw 3 of these out here because I want to, we talked about these questions that I wanted to ask you before, just one or the other. I just want to throw a couple of them out real quick.
Quick fire Q&A, man. Quick fire Q&A. Let's do it.
And then we'll go from there. So, okay, these are just quick ones. Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. Plastic, briefs. I don't know what the third one is. Go ahead.
Yeah, those aren't them. Nice try, though. All right. So I know some of the answers these already, but let's see what you say. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All right. How about bourbon or scotch?
Yes.
That's a tough one, huh? Yes. All right. How about beer or wine?
Beer.
Okay. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
And then short sleeve or long sleeve?
Is this for Brian?
Yeah, it is for Brian.
It depends. I think long sleeves typically look cooler if they have a design on them. Yeah, I actually had a long sleeve shirt on earlier, and I just took it off because there's nothing on it, and it looks like I'd be going outside to do work in the yard. But if you have a logo on your long sleeve shirt, then you're not doing work in the yard. You're going to have some beer or going out to do something else. That was the work phone. So I turned off notifications on the personal phone, but the work phone just went off. So apologize.
Well, hey, I wanted to say thanks for taking the time to be on here. This is the first time me doing it this way, and just wanted to double up and make sure that I can have a way to do live shows and get the podcast out there with other people. And you kind of helped me through that. You helped me make my sound better. You've helped me, just become a better podcaster. So I really appreciate that. Why don't you go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you? What's the best way to find Jay?
So the best way to find me is JHAE. So if you type in JHAE, last name Fenning, PFENNING, or even JHAE, I'm probably going to pop up somewhere. Now, there's a lot of other J's now, but if you want to reach me on Instagram, you can reach me on, it's the easiest, which is NA2NSX or J Travels, JHAE_travels. Otherwise, if you type in HardParking Pod or HardParking Podcast or anything like that, I'm going to hard to find. And just kind of going back to a little bit what Wes said, it's like, I'll help anybody out as much as I can. I don't know it all, but if you're starting out on something or if you need kind of an attentive ear to listen to the sound doing, I've trained my ear over the years just because, and I'm more than willing to give you some pointers and stuff. And I don't charge because it's just something I do to help people.
Yeah. And if you listen to the intro, you got Jay's voice in there too. So he's got one of those golden voices and he's helped me out quite a bit. I challenge you to go check out his podcast because it's awesome. Start with the Father's Day episode if you really want one that you want to get a real good look into what it's about, because there's a lot of good information there. Not just talking about cars, but talking about, things in life that are very relatable. So, Jay, thanks for taking the time. Guys, that's the end of our show. And again, until next time, I want to challenge you to find the shape of your success. Have a great day.